Welcome to day 21 in our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. The title of today's lesson is Eat, Drink, and Be Joyful. Our verses today come from Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verses 14 through 17. There is a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked, and there are wicked people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity, and I commend joy, for man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom, to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night does one's eye see sleep. Then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. However much man may toil in seeking, he will not find it out. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out. Vacation, as defined by Merriam-Webster, a period spent away from home or business in travel or recreation. A scheduled period during which activity, as of school or court, is suspended. A respite or a time of respite from something. As a lad growing up, we had summer vacations from school. That time from around Memorial Day to Labor Day in the United States, roughly 12 weeks. A time when we didn't have to worry about going to classes, doing homework, or riding the bus and such. We also had, during the school year, a Christmas vacation, anywhere from 10 to 16 days from just before Christmas until after New Year's. Again, no classes, no homework, no riding the bus. But these were kids' vacations, not really a vacation for parents. They were often very glad when we went back to school. Now, as to family vacations, we didn't have many of those. My father worked a seasonal job in road construction between March and December, so there were no vacations in that time period. Usually only one day off a week on Sunday. However, we did take a couple of family vacations during those formative years. My parents packed us in the car and off we went in late December during our Christmas vacation. We went to the sunny south to Grandma and Grandpa's house in Florida. Again, I'm not sure it was really a time of complete relaxation for my parents. Like most kids, we could be rather high maintenance, as they say. I want to go swimming. I want to go to the amusement park. I want to go, and more go. In 1910, President William Howard Taft stated in an article in the New York Times that a 2 or 3 month vacation is necessary in order to continue work the next year with the energy and effectiveness which it ought to have. That largely fell on deaf ears in the United States. The history of vacations goes back to Antiquity, according to dailyhistory.org. In the Roman times, it was a luxury afforded generally to the wealthy or upper middle class citizens. This was typical to other countries and cultures through the ages, and even in the United States, where the wealthy would travel by rail and the new roads and trails being developed in the 1800s. Jobs in those days did not include paid time off for most workers, but that began to change in the late 1800s as companies offered paid vacation time. They saw the benefit of relaxation and time away from the job. That attitude continued to develop and now is a part of many packages offered to new employees in the job market. With the advent of air travel, the world is opened up to those who are willing to pay the prices. But the question still remains, how much time off is enough? And studies vary as to the answer to that question, and it's debated. And Solomon poses a rather interesting view on even the thought of vacations, for he declares in verse 15, "And I commend joy, for a man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun." It seems to me I recognize that phrase, eat, drink, and be joyful. For in some versions, like the King James and New King James, it reads, "Eat, drink, and to be merry." Now that's what the Dairy Queen used for their motto when I was growing up. And let me tell you, a trip to the old DQ was a merry one. But I don't think Solomon is directing his thoughts to vacations or even special occasions like a trip to Dairy Queen. He's speaking of the general outlook one has on life. He tells us in verses 16 and 17 of Ecclesiastes 8, "When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep. Then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. However much man may toil in seeking, he will not find it out. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out." Solomon spent a good deal of time addressing the idea of working and being productive in Proverbs. We read in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 11, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways, and be wise. Without having any chief, or officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man." And again in Proverbs chapter 10, verses 4 through 5, "A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame." And again in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 13, "Love not sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you'll have plenty of bread." There's always a balance that Solomon alludes to in his writings. If we lift verse 15 out of context, we would contend that Solomon is telling us in today's language, don't worry, be happy. And maybe the extreme, party till you drop. Now, that can't be right. So we need to be careful of the context with which he puts such a saying. For all our toiling, we cannot fathom the whole of what God is doing. So it is futile to think we can find the answer to all of life's business under the sun, no matter our efforts. If we peek a few chapters into the book, we shall see that Solomon cautions the youth. In chapter 11, verse 9, "Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment." We see this throughout his writings here in Ecclesiastes. In verse 12 here we see, "Though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well for those who fear God, because they fear before him." The same remedy for this life prescribed here in chapter 8 is what Solomon prescribed before. In chapter 3, verses 12 and 13. "I perceive that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man." Have you recognized the gift that God has given you to enjoy this life? And Lord willing, let's meet back here again tomorrow for another lesson in the book of Ecclesiastes.